Mic check. I'm getting no. Now there's like nothing. It keeps going in and out.
In the house audio?
No.
Okay, if you want, the single channel is on the camera, we'll run it to 2.
Yeah?
And you can punch it down. Sound.
I don't know what's going on.
Down here, right from Paris.
It's not working over there for some reason.
Wow.
I literally don't.
Are you getting anything or no?
Nothing.
That's got to be a...
Camera, nothing.
Okay, so you got something coming
Yeah,
in.
but it's in it.
Okay, so I'm not broadcasting on a frequency. I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Evelyn Myrie, and I'm going to be your MC for this morning's program. It's a tribute to our beloved Nelson Mandela, who recently passed on. And here in Hamilton, we would be remiss if we didn't take time as a community to come together to reflect on the tremendous contribution this giant of a man has led as he lived his 95 years. This was a life well lived. And we want to emulate and to walk in the footsteps of Nelson Mandela. That is why the city joined with Hamilton Stewart Memorial Church, one of the oldest institutions in Hamilton. It was founded in 1835 by people who escaped slavery from the United States and came to Canada. People who are resilient people who today are represented through a building on John Street North, and is very much a part of this community. And the Mayor of Hamilton's office quickly agreed to join forces with a number of community members and the church to put this event on today. So I want to thank the Mayor's office. I also want to acknowledge the church and the partners who are taking time to organize this event to remember a great man indeed, Nelson Mandela. So we're going to start off our program this morning quite appropriately with the opening by Elder, and you know that Nelson Mandela also organized an elders group, and it's quite fitting that we have Walter Cook, Aboriginal elder in our community, open this morning's tribute. So let's give a round of applause for Elder Walter Cook.
Good morning. If you're able to stand, could you stand with me? Dear Nelson Mandela, I'm very honored to be here today to do the opening for us and to talk to the Creator on our behalf. And I'm very honored to be here for Nelson Mandela because he was a man of vision, he was a man of peace, and it's going to be hard to fill his shoes. And he's a man of vision, and all the vision that he had, I believe that we can try to emulate that vision and try our best to honor him here in Hamilton. So I'd just like to start to create at this time. Chiminido, ni gweci pipulino nishnade gohandajiawat, ni gweci pipo edi mukadili asa kumalakashiawat. Deane bod Nelson Mandela Rashtrapati, as a PPE race in the Nisha Tigo Chimido, which is Nanino into Maracachia, Achaya, Nimubat Chimido, which is Nantigo, Mondorish Nantigo Chimido, Numika Hidden. Great Spirit, we come to you this morning and we give thanks for this wonderful day you've given us. We give thanks for the snow coming down upon us to let us know that you're still in charge of us. We give thanks for that, Chimido. We also give thanks for the man that we are honoring here today, that we are able to be here today to say the grace for Nelson Mandela and his presence here on Mother Earth with us. We give thanks for that. And we give thanks for his walk that he took in his life. And we give thanks for allowing us to be able to honor him here today in this way. We ask you to be with us as we talk. Be with each speaker as they speak this morning. Be with each one of us as we listen. And be with each one of us later as we depart here. And allow us to get home safely, but to see each other again soon. So we say we praise at this time to say thank you for this time that you've given us to honor this great man of peace, great man of vision. We say we praise at this time. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you. And just before we start, I think we'd like to stand again for the moment of silence. We'll have just a minute of silence. If you're able to stand, please do so. And we'll begin now. Thank you. And keep standing, please. We're going to ask, thank you. We're going to ask Mabato Seat, who will be singing the South African national anthem. Let's welcome her.
Nkosi sikeleli Afrika, maluphakamisu phondo lwayo, izwa imithandazo yethu. Nkosi sikelela thina lusapho lwayo, murena buluka sitshaba sa Yesu, ufedise dintwa le matshwenyego, usibuluke sitshaba sa Yesu, sitshaba sa South Africa, 80 bofa nonsen hina, 80 diepte van ons hier, wordt ons eeuwig gebergd, van die grenzen worden geliefd. Come together, and united we shall stand. Let us live and strive for freedom in South Africa, our land.
Thank you so much. That was very touching. Thank you. We're going to have our mayor, Bratina. You can sit now. Yes. Thank you. We're going to have our mayor, Bratina, bring greetings and peace tribute. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome, everyone. And thank you to Nelson Mandela for his life, which brought us all together here in this room today in a place far away from South Africa, here in Hamilton, Ontario. The first thing that must be noted is that in a very short time, the program that you have, look down the list of participants. It's a remarkable tribute to our city. Our diversity, it's great to have diversity, but it also has to have unity. So we're united here together in honor of the great Nelson Mandela. I want to acknowledge Councillor Jason Farr, who is here from our council. Thank you, Jason. Chief DeCare, who has done so much with regard to diversity in our police service. Chief, welcome to the City Council chambers. And as you came in, there's a beautiful painting that was done by a local painter. His name is Jim Kennelly. He's a resident at Shalom Village. He's a senior, but he did a remarkably beautiful painting. And Jim, would you just give away, where are you? There he is. So in 1965, I started my radio career in Stratford, and Louis Armstrong came to perform at the Stratford. They had a music festival at the time in conjunction with the Shakespearean Festival. And Mr. Armstrong had just come back with his band from a trip to Africa. And it was the first time that jazz had been taken and performed in Africa. And my interview with Mr. Armstrong was remarkable in that he knew that they were living in a kind of prison. But the liberating effect of the jazz music, he said, was tremendous on these people. And I said, what did they like the most? And he said, well, they liked the drumming the most. But he said, you know, that music has that effect, that no matter what the over layers of oppression are, that culture can provide some release and a sense of freedom. It's interesting because at about the same time Armstrong was in South Africa, they were making the motion picture Zulu. And that motion picture came to us, and it was the first time that I had heard African music sung by the Zulu warriors. And I don't know if you're familiar with the movie, but it was so powerful and beautiful. You know what I found? That they were not allowed in South Africa to pay the Zulu actors. And so the production company, because if you know the movie, they released some cattle to interfere with the attack of the warriors. So the producer said, well, they can keep the cattle and other things, which was more important to them than money. They're herdsmen, and so that was one way they got around the apartheid. Can you imagine a system so ridiculous? We know about Sharpeville. We've seen the pictures of the massacres. But down to the minutiae of not being able to get paid for work. This is what Nelson Mandela's time was all about. And so it's remarkable that he chose the path that he did, and how much music played a role in that, because in my early days as a broadcaster, we were playing Hugh Masekela, Miriam Makeba, thanks to Harry Belafonte, who had found these great performers and brought the sounds of African music to the West. And even Paul Simon was controversial with his concerts. And Ladies Went Black, you know, they're so remarkable what they brought to us. But here's the genius of Nelson Mandela. When you talk of great men and great geniuses, you may think of Einstein. I still don't know what E equals MC squared really means. Or you can talk about Tesla, or you can talk about Johann Sebastian Bach, and I hear that music and I can't get over it. I couldn't possibly put one of those notes down the way Bach did. But I can do what Nelson Mandela did. I can turn my back on revenge. And I can forgive my oppressors. And by doing that, he set an example that only 2 or 3 men in history, Gandhi comes to mind, were able to transmit to the people. And then sports, you know, to do what he did with regard to the rugby team, that united that country in a way that few other activities could. It's a genius. And it's accessible to all of us. There's no one in this room who can't forgive their oppressors, who can't smile. And this was one of the key elements and the most memorable things in this beautiful picture that we see of Nelson Mandela smiling at us. Let's smile at each other. Why are we so angry with each other? Why do we call each other names? We can move forward as a society without that. That man proved it. The world is better thanks to Nelson Mandela. He brought us together here, for which I'm very grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor Bob. And speaking of people, power to the people, we're going to be treated by a rendition from Lila Miklos, who will be doing John Lennon's piece called Power to the People. Lila. This is John Lennon's Power to the People. The spirit moves you. Stand, clap, move, and sing along. This is in tribute of Nelson Mandela and his life and legacy. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people right on. This thing we want a revolution. We better get on right away. We'll take it on the beat and out on the street, singing power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people right on. Millions of workers working for nothing. We gotta give them what they really own. We're gonna punch you down when we come into town, singing power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people right on. I ask you, comrades and brothers, how do you treat your women at home? She gotta be herself so she can free herself, singing power to the people. Ah! Power to the people. Yeah! Power to the people. Power to the people right on. Oh, Nelson Mandela, we wanna thank you for bringing power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Yeah. Power to the people right on. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people. Power to the people right on. Thank you, Nelson. Peace out, everyone. Thank you, Lila. And speaking of the power of the people, our next speaker, David Christopherson, Member of Parliament, Hamilton Centre. Welcome, David. We're giving greetings to you program here, so whenever I stand up, it means there's a signal. Sometimes it is.
Yeah, I know. What a coincidence. Just before I speak to remind us all about the time. Well, I gotta tell you, you put me up just before we start singing power to the people. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to rock and roll. But I will do my best. I've been trying to keep this very tight because of the importance of this event, so I will. I'm very, very honored to be here with all my fellow Hamiltonians. I'm joined today by my partner, Denise Doyle, the CEO of the YWCA. I was reflecting when the invitation came on what on earth can you say, especially after everything that's been said around the world by people who are far better at being poignant than us. And you always come back to the personal. And in 2005, as a rookie member of the House of Commons, I joined a struggling organization called the Canada-Africa Parliamentary Association. And in 2005, found myself as part of a delegation, and the very first trip that I took to Africa, I've since been back 6 or 7 times, but the first time I was there was to go to South Africa, to Johannesburg, because we Canadians, all of us, have special recognized status in the Pan-African Parliament. We are a recognized special guest. We have seats reserved for us, and it's a great honor that Canada has. And we were attending that Pan-African parliamentary meeting. And prior to that, we had done a tour of the official National Apartheid Museum, where when you walk in, the first thing that you see are signs that tell you if you're white, you go here, and if you're black, you go here. And you follow through in the museum in that fashion. And what it does is it does something that all of us need, and that is, how did apartheid come to be? How could we go from people being free for thousands of years to suddenly be in domination? And the museum takes you step by step as to how it was done. And remember, all the monsters in history do the best they can to make sure that their laws make okay what they're doing. And so these laws were done incrementally over time. And having left that immediately, we went back to the Pan-African Parliament chamber, and the special guest that day to launch a new Pan-African Trust Fund was Nelson Mandela. And so I had the honor of being in the presence, in the Pan-African Parliament chamber, of Nelson Mandela. And I can only tell you that the aura, the power of his personality, even then he was starting to become a little more frail, but that just enhanced the power of his persona, of his very essence. And I remember thinking how proud I was as a Canadian that it was our Prime Minister, yes, a progressive conservative, not the point, our Prime Minister, Canada's Prime Minister, Brian Mulroney, who led the Commonwealth, that put the pressure on, that finally broke the back of apartheid. And I was proud to stand there as a Canadian, knowing that we had played at least a small role in the great journey of this huge legend of a man. And so I conclude with this, that in my mind, having seen Nelson Mandela, not just in a picture, but in real life, that whenever we Canadians do something positive, like we did on apartheid, when we step out in terms of human rights and fighting for those who have not, when it's not popular, and it's certainly not politically popular, when Canada does that, we are proud. And I believe that when Canada does that, Madiba, he's looking down, and he's smiling. And he's saying, I'm proud of you, Canada. And I think from the perspective of us here in Hamilton, right beside him, over his shoulder, is Link, with a smile as big as Mandela's. And he's saying, way to go, Canada. Way to go, Hamilton. I'm proud of you. And I'm proud to be here with you all today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christopherson. We're going to call now our Provincial Member of Parliament, the Honourable Ted McMeekin from Ancaster, Dallas, Flamborough, Westdale.
Friends, there are some people whose contributions to humanity transcend borders. And so when they die, it touches us all. There are few individuals who have done more to inspire the world than Nelson Mandela. It is a testament to the Diva spirit and to the human spirit that he did not allow himself to be taken over by anger. And so he was able to make the long walk to freedom with his heart empty of hate and his mind free of bitterness or resentment. as he said afterward, he understood that you cannot drink poison and expect it to kill your enemies. Mr. Mandela understood how easy it is to curse the darkness, but how much more important it is to light candles of hope and reconciliation. There are many, many stories about Nelson Mandela's enormous stature as a human being. I was never privileged with my colleague David to meet the man, although for several years I had the privilege of working with a social justice group at the regional United Church office, and we'd write letters every 2 weeks to the South African government begging for Nelson's release, and to our own government asking to strengthen sanctions. But without exception, those who have met, did meet Nelson Mandela, spoke of a profound sense of being in the presence of greatness. David, you captured that this morning. An almost intangible sense of firm purpose tempered by grace. One of my favorite Mandela quotes comes from his 1994 autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, which I have just reread this week. The quote reads, "No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin, or his background, or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite." Powerful stuff, isn't it? I admire that Mandela enormously. But I want to tell you a brief story that shows a slightly different side of him, if I can. It was June 1990. Nelson Mandela had been out of prison for just over 4 months when he visited Canada. The election that would make him South Africa's first black president was still almost 4 years away. But Mandela was a president in waiting, and he knew he needed friendly governments to help him shape the future of his country. He also needed cash to help organize in the years before he would legitimately take power. On that June evening, fresh from addressing the Parliament of Canada, Mandela and Prime Minister Brian Mulroney flew to Toronto for a celebratory dinner. Gary's nodding. You may have been there. There were speeches and there was entertainment. And as the evening reached its climax, Prime Minister Mulroney took the podium to deliver a speech of friendship and to announce the creation of a $5 million fund to help with South Africa's reorganization. As Mulroney finished his speech, Mandela could be seen conferring with an aide. Then he got up to speak. He was eloquent and glowing in his praise for Canada and his support for an apartheid-free South Africa. And then he graciously thanked the Prime Minister for his gift of $5 million US. True story. The room erupted in laughter and applause. With those two initials US, Mandela had added hundreds of thousands of dollars to the fund. Mulroney knew he was beaten. He came back to the podium with a sheepish grin and said, "Okay, Nelson, $5 million US. Nelson Mandela was truly a great human being, but he was also a deaf politician who didn't mind making a little mischief now and then. Friends, no one gets to live forever. Some are never forgotten. Our world is poor without Nelson Mandela, but infinitely richer for the time he spent among us. Thank you for letting me share some words with you this morning, and may all the blessings of the holiday season be with all of you. God bless.
next presentation. And when we put this together, we were so impressed with the numbers of calls we got. Can I be in the agenda? We want to make a tribute to this man. And Hamilton, in all its diversity, came forward. So we have a quite eclectic group of performers here this afternoon. I'd like to welcome Brother Elize and his friends to perform the next piece. Thank you.
These are my friends, but they are also the Artwork Ensemble, a wonderful group of actors and performers. I also wanted to say that in the name of diversity, we're going to do an Italian carol, because the Italian population is very important here in Hamilton. Go in the middle, Charlie.
Scende delle stelle, ore del cielo, e viene una grotta a freddo al cielo, e viene una grotta al freddo al cielo. Oh bambino mio divino, io ti vedo qui a tremare, oh Dio beato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato.
You came down from the stars, creator of heaven and earth. The angels did proclaim your humble and holy word.
The angels did proclaim your humble and holy birth. Oh bambino mio divino, io ti vedo qui a tremare. Oh Dio beato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato. A te che sei del mondo, il creatore, mancando pane e fuoco, oh mio Signore, mancando pane e fuoco, oh mio Signore, oh bambino mio divino, io ti vedo qui a tremare, oh Dio beato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato, ai quanto ti costò l'avermi amato.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much. We're going to move now into the invocation by Reverend George Horton from Stewart Memorial Church. Welcome, Reverend.
We are here today not only to mourn the death of our hero, Nelson Mandela, Mandela, but also to celebrate the life of an icon who took the teachings of Micah the prophet seriously. And what does the Lord require of you, man, but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God? This epitomized Mandela. But beyond mourning, let us also celebrate the life of this icon whose godly humanity and self-sacrifice will live on in the hearts of those who love justice everywhere, forever. Let us also give thanks to God for sending to us in our time this Joshua. At the right time in history of humanity, let us pray. God, our Heavenly Father, we join with people of faith everywhere and among all nations who mourn the passing of your servant, Nelson Mandela, who through his incredibly Christ-like faith and courage, sacrifice of his own life for his people, and his leadership against the evil of apartheid, led them to their promised land, tearing down those walls of Jericho. We thank you, Lord, for Nelson Mandela and his spirit that lives on in his family, in the people of South Africa, and in people who love justice everywhere. Dalibunga Madiba Mandela. We thank you, God, for raising him up in our time. We thank you today also for our own local leaders, elected and otherwise, who embrace his example. Grant us courage and strength in our time, in our homes, in our places of worship, in our places of learning, courage and strength to face the challenges before us. We pray to our God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and rejoice in your presence and that of the heavenly host, who even at this moment presents to our brother your heavenly commendation. Well done, good and faithful servant. Amen. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. We have another tribute at this time from Reverend Dr. Abiel Khalema, who was born in South Africa. He was a Methodist minister during the apartheid regime and was a supporter of the liberation movement, who also faced direct repression by the apartheid state for his work and had to flee to Canada in exile here as a result. He is a United Church of Canada minister and serving as the General Counsel Office in Toronto. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Abiel Khalema.
To the Mandela Memorial Organizing Committee, the Mayor, Ms. Bratina, the Member of Parliament, David, to Ted, and to our Honorable Selani Mukwena, our Consular General, who is in Toronto, and also the Hamilton community assembled here, and to all participants in the program. honored and very moved by being here with you. All my life, I have been inspired by Nelson Mandela. Inspired to believe that it is possible to work for justice through peace, and that it is possible to see that forgiveness can rule in this world and change what is wrong. Change minds of people and change nations. I was born in Soweto, and I grew up in Soweto, and I went to school in Soweto, and I became a school teacher in Soweto during the most troubling times of our time. And the vision that Madiba had for us as young people growing in the streets of Soweto was tremendous. At age 19, I was detained myself and tortured. But you know what? I was never angry or bitter or surprised. In fact, I loved it. You know why I loved it? Because Nelson Mandela had that vision. It is better to die for an idea that is working, that is helpful, rather than die for something that is not good. That was Madiba for me. That was the message for me. Even though I was a Methodist minister and preaching the gospel, I followed the Micah scripture reading to do justice wherever you are. This is the teaching that Elize Mandela taught us. Now at this moment, I want you to imagine a moment, a little bit. What would have happened if Nelson Mandela walked out of prison and said, "It's time, get them"? South Africans would have died in millions. And as Ted said, Mandela said, revenge is when you drink poison and hope that someone else will die. Instead, Madiba said these powerful words that have lived with me for years and years. Never again, never, never shall it be that in this beautiful country and this beautiful land we'll experience oppression from one to another. That is the lesson that Madiba has taught us. That we need to give respect to people, that we need to care for people, and to know that we are human beings, and that we are created by the same Creator who created everything else. Madiba had borne pain and humiliation of all oppressed people of South Africa, and eventually united the nation. It is Mandela who united the nations. The first democratically elected government constituted the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Now, people who do not understand the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was whereby the community in South Africa was given an opportunity to share the pain that we experienced. For me, I knew the policeman who had tortured me. I heard his name, and I searched. And it took me time to go and forgive that person. Forgiveness goes a long way. It heals you. It makes you strong. It makes you powerful. And that is why Nelson Mandela was so powerful. I just want to end and say, there will never be another Nelson Mandela. There will never be that person again. And as I said to my granddaughters, his name will live beyond the grave and down the centuries. And brothers and sisters, may his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you for that powerful message, Dr. Khalema. Now we're going to move to another referent. This time we have for music, Reverend Sechi Ariga, and he'll be doing this, playing the flute for us. Thank you, Reverend.
Hi, my name is Sechi Ariga, retired minister of the United Church of Canada, and also principal vocalist of Dundas Community Orchestra. And last 2 decades, almost every year I was asked to play something at the annual Hiroshima and Nagasaki Memorial Observance Sultan, which happened in this very chamber. And so I was, and through the same channel, was through the same group of people, I was approached this time to play something again today, which is very honor to me. I'm very delighted to do it. However, in the past, in the memorial observance, I always played some meditative, quiet music. This time they asked me to play something joyful to celebrate. And I don't have any particular repertoire for that. But then I discovered this music, which I composed about more than 10 years ago at the Easter early morning service. This is short, but that was, I thought that this is appropriate because the very Easter morning, 2 women went to Jesus' tomb, assuming that same dark moment was gone. And they discovered it's no longer there, it was all gone. So this is a theme of that early morning of Easter. And I think this is, even no Christians, this is very appropriate, I hope.
and the eclectic mix of people wanting to be a part of it. This is why we love Hamilton. This moment is one of those moments. And next we're going to call upon Imam Osam Halal from the Muslim Association of Hamilton to bring his tribute. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. It's such a colorful room that we've got here. People of all different colors, religions, faiths. It's just wonderful to see. And who is it? You know, Mandela is currently in South Africa, and look at how he has united people from across the world. It's amazing. I have to give regrets. Unfortunately, our Imam has been stricken with influenza. And so he didn't, although it's good to be Canadian and share, he didn't want to come here and share that with everybody here. But it's an honor, and thank you very much for having us here. It's a great honor. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his final messenger. It was indeed astonishing to see how Nelson Mandela's sad passing had brought two staunch foes, the United States and Cuba, to greet each other with handshakes at the memorial. Regardless of the political motives of that gesture, it is clear that Nelson Mandela was there in spirit, and he inspired these two great world leaders to briefly put aside their differences and their enmity for one another out of respect for a great man of peace and humility. And indeed, this is what Mandela's legacy embodied, the unification of humanity. Black, white, brown, yellow, other, under the united and very multicolored banner of mankind. Not the settling of old scores, not revenge. He had these opportunities. He could have chosen violence over peace, but he chose peace. But unity and forgiveness in a most humble, peaceful, and articulate manner. A leader, a teacher, a peacemaker, a reconciler, and a nation builder. As Muslims, we are intrigued at the parallels of Mandela's struggle, his traits, and his principles with those of our own beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Like Mandela, Muhammad was also a great leader and was able to unite hundreds of warring tribes under a common brotherhood of humanity. Their allegiances were first to God, then the Prophet, then to each others as brothers and sisters in humanity. Like Mandela, Muhammad too struggled through hardship, hunger, and sacrifice, but ultimately he was able to lead a bloodless conquest over Mecca. Not a single drop of blood was shed. And just like Mandela's sweeping order for amnesty on the defeat and dismantling of apartheid, so too did Muhammad, peace be upon him, order amnesty to the citizens of Mecca for his former persecutors and mortal enemies. There's a very famous verse from the Quran, chapter 49, verse 13. O mankind, we have created you from male and female, and made unto you nations and tribes, that you may get to know one another. Verily, the most honorable of you with Allah is the one who is most righteous. Verily, Allah, our God, is all-knowing and all-aware. In the true spirit of Madiba Nelson Mandela, we as his Muslim brothers and sisters reach out to you all that we move closer together, unified under the multicolored fabric of humanity, so that we may get to know one another. On behalf of Hamilton's 30,000 Muslims, we salute you, Madiba Tata Rohila Mandela, as you move on to your next station in the universe. We offer our heartfelt prayers and condolences on the passing of our brother, Nelson Mandela. May God bless his nation, and may his legacy continue to inspire all people and all world leaders around the world, so that our world can become a better place to live in and to share. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're moving on now to asking Mahendra Diodnaran from the Hamilton Hindu Samaj Temple to bring his tribute. Thank you.
Brothers and sisters, namaste, greetings. On behalf of the Hindu Samaj Temple of Hamilton and Hindus in this region, I stand before you to pay tribute to a human being who has inspired so many around this world. It is written in our scripture, the Holy Bhagavad Gita, that whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice and a predominant use and rise of evil practices, at that time I will descend myself. These words resonate powerfully in the life of the late Nelson Mandela. He came at a time and a place where he was most needed. His life was a testimony of the fact that God made us in his own image. And according to the Hindu tradition, that God resides in each one of us, irrespective of our color, our creed, and our social place. At times it is difficult to believe the truths in these statements. But ever so often, we need to be reminded of who we really are. He showed us forgiveness, compassion, courage and fortitude that can be the order of the day. He was practical. Like Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King before him, he risked his own life to give voice to the oppressed. He was the face of struggle, but most of the world remembered him for his humility and for his strength to forgive those who persecuted him. Brothers and sisters, we at the Hindu Samaj of Hamilton can relate to this struggle too. When our Hindu temple was razed to the ground, we were able to forgive those who wronged us. And it was easy to do because of exemplary behavior of people before us. There is much we can learn from him. Among his gems, he said, "As I walked towards my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison." Very powerful. As we reflect upon these powerful statements, we take comfort in the fact that he has provided the youth of our time with a lived experience that spans a generation of struggle for what is right. And more so, he provides courage to those who experience helplessness. My own spiritual master said, I envision a world wherein every individual becomes the embodiment of true fraternity and justice through self-realization. The work of Nelson Mandela brings this statement to reality. It is now left to us to make his vision our task. In closing, I invoke the Hindu prayer of peace. Unto the heaven be peace, unto the sky be peace, unto the earth be peace, peace unto the waters, unto the herbs and the trees be peace, unto all be peace. And may we realize that peace. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. O Lord, thanks for the gift of Mandela. May his soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that prayer. At this time, I'm going to read on behalf of the Hamilton Jewish community. Our speaker, Jerry Fisher, wasn't able to join us this morning, as it's the Sabbath, and he was not able to be here. He did send some notes that he'd like me to read. I will not be able to read the full 3 pages, however, and I will just pull a few pieces out of it that I think, from my perspective, adds to this particular time, the issue of time, and also the text of the message. So here we go. Good morning, and thank you for coming together as such a diverse community to share our thoughts and feelings, our love and gratitude for the life of Nelson Mandela. Given that the event is taking place on the Jewish Sabbath, I am precluded from being present, but allow me, through Jerry saying, through Abiel, to say a few words. The Jewish community of Hamilton, which includes a number of South Africans, joins with all others around the world in expressing its grief, its appreciation, and ultimately the celebration of the life and accomplishment of a man who was truly a modern-day giant in the prophetic tradition of the Old Testament. The relationship between Nelson Mandela and the Jewish community is long and deep. Jews have been a part of Mandela's life from his arrival in Johannesburg in the early 40s to present. For example, in choosing to pursue law as his profession, it was Lazar Sadelsky that gave Mandela his start as an articles clerk in his law firm at a time when it was unheard of for young blacks to be taken on in such a capacity. His fellow clerk, Nathan Bergman, became Nelson Mandela's first white friend in Johannesburg, and as a member of the Communist Party at the time, also played a part in his early political education. As he moved increasingly into political activism, Mandela came more and more to be associated with members of the Jewish community who were likewise confronting apartheid system. 13 of his fellow defendants in the 1956 to 1961 treason trial, for example, were Jews, among them as struggle stalwarts as Lionel Bernstein, Joe Slovo, and Ruth First. Although I connect in concrete ways to Mandela's legacy through my Canadian and Jewish identities, I must say the feelings of solidarity, mourning, and celebration which I am grappling transcends all national lines. I connect to Mandela as a human being, and I wonder, as I imagine everyone does, whether I could have mustered the courage and strength of character to survive horrific treatment and emerge consumed not by anger, but by an incredible readiness to elevate a troubled nation to one governed by the principles of human dignity. In my lifetime, I have come to understand and will always remember Madiba to use his clan name, not merely for his infamous and shocking 27 years in prison, but rather for his transformative leadership that made possible the creation of a democratic, diverse, and free South Africa. Erwin Cotler, Canadian Jewish leader, Member of Parliament, former Justice Minister, and Mandela's international human rights lawyer, put it best when he addressed the Canadian House of Commons on December 5th. Mandela was the embodiment of three great struggles of the 20th century. The long march toward freedom, as he put it, the march for democracy, and the march for equality. In a word, he was the metaphor and message for the struggle for human rights and human dignity in our time. May his memory be a blessing. Thank you. And those are the words of Jerry Pickering. And now we're waiting. The choir from Stewart Church will have assembled and they're ready to go. No, they're not there yet. So we'll ask them to do so. And all the other performers, and you do have your agenda in front of you, so do take your space right after, so we're not, so we can just move very smoothly into this. We also this time want to acknowledge the organizers of the event, Stewart Memorial Church. We have Hamilton Black District Committee, Building and Construction Trades Council of Ontario, City of Hamilton, Gandhi Peace Festival, Gandhi King Committee, Hamilton Center for Civic Inclusion, and Jamaica Foundation. And I know as Canadians, we are very proud of the contributions of Canada to the fight against apartheid. But being a dual, being bicultural myself, being Jamaican and all, I just thought I would, and since I'm waiting for the choir to get ready, I have just a little tidbit here. It was in 1957 that Jamaica stood very strongly and very much involved in the South Africa, calling for sanctions against South Africa. So I'm very proud that we, and many other Caribbean nations, as Children of Africa, were also there from the beginning, 1957. I'm sure Gary Warren would tell me Trinidad was 1956, and some of them. But the point is that we all stood together, and here we are today, remembering Nelson. So now we take it over to Stewart Memorial Church and the Guava Tree Singers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ellen. In remembrance of Nelson, our first piece is "Oh Freedom," which is appropriate.
I'll be buried in my grave.
We're moving on now to one of our key presentation, and that will be by the Honorable Tishlaine Mokwadwe, and she is the Consul General of South Africa. Let's give her a warm Hamilton welcome.
My name is Zelani. Zelani. Yes. It means cough. Means a cough. Yeah, that's what my name is. Every African name has a meaning. Don't massacre it. But I want to really appreciate what the city of Hamilton is doing for Madiba. Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, Nelson Mandela Committee, the organizing committee that put all this together, members of Parliament here present, the President of McMaster University, I understand he couldn't make it today, and members of the university, members of the Consular Corps, they are here. And I see members of the anti-apartheid movement are also here, and I appreciate your presence. Reverend Khalema, thank you, sir. And fellow South Africans, friends of South Africa, Ausmabat, Lewi, thank you for the wonderful rendition of Voices Together. So before I begin, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to just test my people a little bit and see if they still remember how we used to do it back then. Because if they have forgotten, this would not be a befitting send-off for that. Yes. So I don't know if you still remember all the songs or some, but I think two songs which I think back then, those Mabatu you remember, that's a Khalema, we'll see. So I bank on you. row number 2, row number 2. Siba chelile wema, uye zumkonto wesi. Siba chelile wema, uye zumkonto wesi. Uye zumkonto. There's no way you can sing Mzabalazo Site. There's no way. So the actions would be to pick up your knees, 90 degrees. Yes, it used to be very good physical exercise for some of us. We were fit, very fit then, Osmabat. Remember? And the action would also be AK-47. So you have to do that. And of course, I don't want to call the bad name, but they used to run away when they saw us going like this. But that's how it used to go. So I remember it's not so long ago that Mr. Mayor and the city, the Mahatma Gandhi Center, invited me to the unveiling of the statue of Mahatma Gandhi. And I humbly accepted to unveil the statue. I think it was last year sometime. Those are very fun memories. And I remember reflecting on the life of Mahatma Gandhi then. And now we gathered here today to reflect on the life of this very statesman, the big man, a man whose shoes will be very difficult to fit into, but a man who has left a very good legacy, a man who's left us with a great philosophy that we will all, together with our children, seek to emulate and continue and advance. As we pay homage to this great statesman and icon, father of the nation, it is a great honor to have been invited and given this opportunity by the people in the city of Hamilton to bid farewell to Tata Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela on behalf of the government and the people of South Africa. We truly, truly appreciate all the messages of support and the love we've seen and the expansion of memorial services all over Canada. By tomorrow, 7 o'clock, we would have had 8 memorial services, and we're trying to ensure that we attend all of them without exception. After all, it was Canada that called for an end to apartheid. It was Canada that called for sanctions. And I won't be able to remember all the presidents, all the prime ministers, but it was really almost all of them. I mean, from the time of Diefenbaker, I won't call them in their order, Matan, Chrétien, Moroni, and Prime Minister Harper was in South Africa, or is still there, I don't know whether he left, but in a show of support, he had to go and bid his respects to Nelson Mandela. We are truly moved by all the well wishes and the expression of your support, and we salute you, Canadians. And we hope that you will continue to support us as you did at the beginning. You will continue to support South Africa, this young nation, this young teenage nation that is 19 years old today. Because we can never defeat the evil of apartheid and all its appendages only by signature and extrication of the laws of apartheid without visible action and support of all those that have supported us in the past. Canada has promised that it will ensure that the legacy of Mandela lives on. The anti-apartheid movement in Toronto is working on a legacy, an enduring legacy, to make sure that all the schools in Canada reflect in their curricula the philosophy of Mandela. We appreciate that in their curricula, that they will have something about the life of this statesman. We are still to realize that in some of our schools in South Africa, because some people are still in denial that apartheid was evil. They don't want to talk about it. They would want us to forget, but you cannot forget. The one thing we can do, of course, Reverend Khalema, is forgive. and not forget. So let me reflect on the life of Nelson Mandela. Let me emphasize the principles that he stood for: forgiveness, reconciliation, unity, equality, non-discrimination, non-segregation, non-sexism, non-racialism, justice, freedom, and Ubuntu. Today, these are the values enshrined in our Constitution, and these are the values that unite us, bind us as the people of South Africa. It is therefore incumbent upon us to ensure that we protect and continue to practice these values and pass them on to our children and the future generations, because that is the only way the legacy of Mandela can live on. These values can be traced back to the philosophies that shaped Mandela's consciousness, or as we all witnessed in 1990, after his release from prison. Mandela sought forgiveness instead of revenge, and in subsequent years, sought forgiveness, became a champion for non-violence, as he was in the process of negotiating for peace. And we made sure that the peace settlement that we negotiated with our oppressors was one that would be enjoyed. We instituted the Truth and Reconciliation Commission in line with the Mandela philosophy that why don't we call our enemies? Why don't we extend the hand that Reverend Khalema extended and forgive our enemies and reconcile and release ourselves? Because the burden would otherwise have been greater if we had kept the hatred in ourselves. His actions, by and large, were influenced by the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, who also at one point in his lifetime played a pivotal role in the struggle that he waged against oppression, racial segregation, and discrimination in South Africa. Mandela once said about Gandhi, Gandhi negotiated in good faith and without bitterness. So did Mandela when he sat around the table to negotiate with the apartheid government in the run-up to the democratic elections of 1994. Mandela further admitted that Gandhi's philosophy contributed in no small measure to bringing about a peaceful transformation to South Africa and indeed in the destructive human divisions that had been spawned by the abhorrent practice of this evil apartheid. As an agent of change, Gandhi used humility, love, and compassion as cardinal ingredients for the building of a free and democratic South Africa. And these are the principles that Mandela also stood for: Ubuntu and humility. It is therefore befitting today, ladies and gentlemen, to pay tribute to this great statesman, to also remember the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi as we do so, and the role he played in shaping the Mandela philosophy and consciousness. Mandela, who is now revered by the entire world. Mandela once reiterated that both Gandhi and I suffered colonial oppression, and both of us mobilized our respective peoples against governments that violated our freedoms. His strategy of non-cooperation, his assertion that we can be dominated only if we cooperate with our dominators, and his non-violent resistance inspired anti-colonial and anti-racist movements internationally and in our country. He was no ordinary leader. There are those who believe he was divinely inspired, and it's difficult not to believe that with them, we in South Africa brought about our new democracy relatively peacefully on foundations of such thinking. How ironic it is that the time has come that we utter the same words through Mandela that were uttered by Gandhi, that we today can say about Nelson Mandela, who was indeed an ordinary but peaceful leader. He was compassionate, loving, and caring. He was not unilateral in his leadership, rather inclusive in his decision-making. It was never about him indeed, it was about the collective. In today's times, He has been equated to a saint, a once-in-a-lifetime type of man. Mandela was not only a father to us as a nation, but he was also a teacher to the world. We can only honor him by being his student, as he was a student to Gandhi. We can only honor him by practicing his teachings in our lives, in our communities, and in every small way. We should not, therefore, and I appeal to my fellow South Africans, countrymen and women, not join the choruses of doom, not play on the editorials that we see on TV, which seek to trivialize this very important moment by showing some stupidity that we see. We pay very expensively for BBC channels and others, and for them to keep trumpeting on some stupid interpreter does not show us what is happening in the country. How our people are mourning this great statesman. We have 9 provinces. For them to focus on one interpreter throughout the day and night and afternoon trivializes the moment that we should be observing. I have been witness to both worlds, the apartheid South Africa and the post-apartheid South Africa. I have been witness to the time when we studied, and you will remember, under candlelight, when our books would burn because we studied and put the book near the candle, and the book would burn. I don't know how many people it has happened to, but it happened to me. I've also been witness to the time when we had to queue to fetch water from a row, 100 houses, 100 people queuing or more to water our gardens, to cook, to feed and clothe ourselves, to wash our clothes, to drink from one communal tap. That Khalema will remind you or tell you. Those were the days. But today, 80% of our people enjoy access to running water in their homes. 80% of our people enjoy flicking the light and there, let there be light. 75% of our people enjoy great sanitation. We also have access to the best roads I've ever seen in the world. I travel a lot. We have the best infrastructure. We have to give ourselves a pat on the back as South Africans who having fought this battle and winning and overcoming this battle, although the challenges continue. What we see on BBC and other news media saddens me absolutely, because they are not talking to the broader community. It's almost as if they are singling out people to talk to who will always see all the negative and nothing positive in the 19 years within which we have had to deal with the evil and vestiges of apartheid. We have seen change in our lifetime. And I'm not an ordinary spokesperson of government. I live in my community, so I can tell you for sure, I have seen change. I'm not getting paid to say what I do. I'm not getting paid to preach good stories for government. However, I am, of course. But truth be told, I live in the township, and I know what's happened before, and I know what's happening now. So when you read this media or read stories, please do your homework. Google some more. Look at progress made by the government, and stop joining the prophets of doom and gloom. Because South Africa of Mandela is not a South Africa of doom and gloom. It's a very progressive South Africa. Yes. We should therefore endeavor, ladies and gentlemen, in the next century to ensure that, just as it was from Gandhi his teachings live on, so that someday, we can have another leader of the same caliber as the two great men that we are gathered here about today. We say in Xhosa, Lala ngopolo dada, robala ka kgotso madiba. Rest in peace. Rest in peace. Sasaksen boforoto, sikulu Mandela, Mandela. Sasaksen boforoto. I don't know if you don't know that one, but you have to get up now. That's my last song. Sasaksen boforoto, sikulu Mandela, Mandela. Sasaksen boforoto, sikulu Mandela, Mandela. Mandela, Mandela, Kululu Mandela, Mandela, Kululu Mandela, Mandela, Kululu Mandela, Mandela. Saksa Sengo Foroto, Kululu Mandela, Mandela. Saksa Sengo Foroto, Kululu Mandela, Mandela. Mandela, Mandela. I don't hear anybody. Thank you so much. I'm not going to try to butcher your name, so after this program, you're going to take me to the corner and you're going to give me a good lesson as to how to say that name. Yeah. So thank you so much for the inspirational words, and thank you for bringing the message from South African continent to a here. Just to be almost through it, and I'm going to ask now, we have had our key presenter, we had the various religious and presentations. So those were sacrilege, I was going to stand up. But this time I'm going to really have to take the as I say, the proverbial hook and make sure that we don't go too long with our presentation. So I'm going to ask for Kojo Damti to do a rendition. And right after that, we'll have Rama Singh will come up and do this. Right after that, you have Pat Dillon from the labor union say a few words as well. So we'll just quickly transition and move forward. So thank you. Let's give Kojo a wonderful welcome.
So, I was born and raised in Ghana, West Africa, and this song is called Africa. This is a song that was dedicated to all our great African leaders, Kwame Nkrumah, Patrice Lumumba, Steve Biko, and now Nelson Mandela. So this one is Africa.
Africa.
organizing committee for today.
Thank you, Evelyn, and I would like to thank Honorable Council General for those initial remarks, and those are really very much in line with what I want to say. This week, really, as a member of the Peace Festival Committee, there are many people here who work on the committee. The thoughts have been going in mind that once the mourning and the celebration is over, how we are going to take Mandela's message and make it part of our life every day. And you know, humanity is very ruthless. At the end of the day, no matter how famous you are, there is always maybe one or two words. You are lucky if they remember your name. But even the most famous scientists, musicians, philosophers, one word gets summed up. So what the word is for Mandela? So I tried to do some exercise myself, make it think about it. Mandela is known as the warrior. Mandela the warrior. But in the history of legend, every warrior has tried to destroy his enemy. Not Mandela. Mandela reached out to his enemy and made them collaborators. So there is he's a unique warrior. Then there is Mandela the sufferer. And Gandhi said, that's the only way. By suffering with your people, with them, for them, you actually become the leader of those people. And who has suffered most? Remember, we talked about 27 years, Mandela was in prison for life. He could have died. 27 years itself is a life. And yet, he was able to suffer to make the man he was like his people. Then you have the Mandela, the liberator. People have liberated, but outside the United States, where the majority suppress the minority, I know of no other country where the majority has suffered at the hand of minority. So much so. And yet, Mandela liberated them. He did liberate. Then Mandela the forgiver. Mark those words, Mandela the forgiver. Just imagine as Lord Khalifa said that there could have been bloodbath. But in those 27 years, Mandela, man of steel, changed himself. He saw not just for what was there for South Africa, but what was there for the whole world. As the Council General mentioned about Gandhi, and mentioned Martin Luther King. These people changed themselves to think about the whole world. He did forgive. Mandela forgave. And then Mandela the peacemaker. When I think of him, I mean literally as if there are two ways to think about it. Either you think of him a great man in the right place, right time in history, or you can think about as if there was a destiny, there has to be Mandela. And when I think about peacemaking, basically three things. Gandhi's non-violence, Martin Luther King's love of humanity, beloved community, and Mandela's forgiveness. Mohan Martin Mandela. Mohan is Gandhi's first name. Mohan Martin Madiba. Together, they ascend in the heaven and look after our interests. They start shine this whole week. And my feeling is that's the way to remember Mandela. He is part of the Trinity which has united the North and the South, East and the West, and sure there will be others like them. We hope there will be others like them. But right now, Mandela makes a complete peace package. In his forgiveness, remember, Mandela's great gift to us. And I would just like to say one word at the end. We all come in our life with two sets of parents. The one, we owe our body and brain, who teach us how to live. And then other parents are our spiritual parents like Mandela. It is their thoughts and ideas we put in our mind, and we call ourselves human. So as a human, we made a pledge with destiny. people like Mandela who have taken on that path further, but there is more to be done. So we owe to Mandela that we will keep working for him. And next year, Gandhi Peace Festival committee is going to be called Gandhi King Mandela Committee, and next year's theme will be Nelson Mandela, Life and His Legacy.
Thank you very much. We're going to have Pat Dillon now from the Ontario Building Trades Council, member of the committee to plan this event, to say a few words. And right after that, I'm going to ask the next presenter, who is Mrs. Montague and Michael St. George, to just get lined up, and we'll proceed out. We'll have to come back before we call you this special place. Thank you so much.
David, Ted, Jason, and all leaders of different groups within Hamilton. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here to speak to you today to offer some remarks on the life and legacy of Nelson Mandela. Mandela was a champion in the global struggle against oppression and racism, and his story is the story of a man who went from prisoner to president. Through South Africa, Mandela proved to all that prejudice, no matter how deeply embedded in a society, can be overcome. Mandela reminds us that justice and vengeance are separate, and that forgiveness is a powerful instrument of peace. It was through Mandela's ability to personally forgive the men who had imprisoned him and to persuade others to forgive that South Africa was able to put an end to its long history of oppression without a long and bloody civil war. Mandela's ability to forgive his former captives was all the more incredible when you consider the context of the time he grew up in. Nelson Mandela was a young black man in South Africa during the 30s and 40s, along with 86% of the population of South Africa, most of whom could not own land in most areas. Blacks could not unionize, could not expect to receive an education or even get access to basic literacy programs. A public education system existed, as did a public health care system and other programs that could have helped all citizens of South Africa, but they were denied to blacks, and to most blacks. Apartheid meant that your average South African person had to watch a developed nation grow around them and accept that they were barred from accessing it. It is not hard to see how such a system might have been both internally and intentionally condemned. For years, supporters of racial equity from dozens of nations staged protests and helped to bar South Africa from competing in the Olympics. The South African government responded by ignoring global calls for equality and throwing rebels and agitators like Nelson Mandela in prison. For opposing a system of apartheid and trying to bring equality to South Africa, Mandela served 27 years in prison. He was sentenced to life, but got out at 27 years. When he was finally released, thanks to years of international pressure and protest, Mandela was elected president. He put himself into a position where he could take revenge on those who wronged him. But Nelson Mandela took no revenge. Instead, he took it upon himself to say, "It ends here, now, and with us." Mandela was able to stay focused on peace in spite of all he endured before and during his imprisonment, and in spite of all he knew that his people had endured under an apartheid system. To say to your enemy, "We will not take revenge," is something we can all imagine being very, very difficult. But I think it is more difficult to imagine saying to an entire race, to a country full of people who have been wronged alongside you, "We will not take revenge because peace must be more important to us." For years, Mandela had to walk into groups full of comrades and supporters and tell them, "No, we could not take revenge." Instead of fighting against individual bigots and races, He chose the higher battle against the violence that can live through bigotry and racism. You may know, my son told me when we were talking about this generation here in North America, that he had really had a hard time imagining what it must have been like in a place that legally forced some people to ride at the back of a city bus because of their skin color. My son's generation can't imagine being told that drinking from the wrong water fountain at a park could get you arrested. It is because of people like Nelson Mandela that coming generations will see racism as something that belongs to the past. Mandela was often quoted as saying that the struggle against racism and inequality was not a national struggle, but an international struggle, one that involved the entire human family. It's easy to say, and I couldn't agree more. In his youth, Mandela was inspired by like-minded men and women, not just from South Africa, but from all over the world. As a teenager, Mandela directed a play about Abraham Lincoln. And as he grew older, he wrote passionately about virtues of nonviolent, peaceful protest, the kind of methods practiced by Gandhi and Martin Luther King. To paraphrase Isaac Asimov, an old science fiction writer, there is but one light of freedom, and to brighten it anywhere is to brighten it everywhere. Much like Gandhi or Martin Luther King before him, Nelson Mandela's example will serve to fight oppression wherever it is and whatever it likes its sails. I'll just finish off here. I see my time clock. We can also take some solace in the fact that unlike so many who came before him, Nelson Mandela was to continue his work in life well into old age. Too many great leaders have died violently in the pursuit of justice and equality. From Lincoln to Martin Luther King, the path to democracy and freedom is littered with bodies of great martyrs and heroes. This was not the case with Mandela. Mandela was able to lead a long, healthy life. Even though he spent some of his best years in prison, Mandela was able to die with dignity at 95 years of age, having accomplished his life's dream in a bed surrounded by friends and family. We should mourn our loss, but also remember that his death was dignified and not tragic. Nelson Mandela's life was a life of triumph, growth, and change, from second-class citizen to rebel to prisoner to president. Thank you.
We have our first youth speaker. Let's welcome her.
As a teenager in 2013, who can I choose as a role model, whose actions I can look to pattern my life? Oxford Dictionary defines a role model as a person looked to by others, as an example to be imitated. Nelson Mandela is a man who embodies peace, justice, equality, and freedom. He is worthy to be my role model. Good afternoon, Madam Master of Ceremonies, distinguished guests, and members of the audience. Nelson Mandela is my role model because he lived and witnessed the adversity of the wretched apartheid system. Despite being torn from his family and his people for what seems to be the more productive part of his life, he was imprisoned for opposing a system that dehumanizes his people, a system that segregated and devalued humans. However, to the surprise of his people and the world, like a phoenix, he left the walls of Robben Island a changed man. Instead of retaliation, he preached and practiced reconciliation. Instead of hatred, he showed love. With these qualities, he was able to unite a nation, and his death unite a world. As Mandela said, it is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones. As we gather here today, let us not make this just a mere honoring of this, our global citizen, but as people and a nation, let us stand up for a cause of our citizens in need, the way this great hero has taught us. Nelson Mandela is my role model.
Spoken word artist, multi-talented artist, but it's the spoken word piece today. Thank you.
It ends here and now. My God. And so I see that life is special and hope that we will make it so. Then we will grow as intended, and we will know how it should be. So ask yourself this question. Is this I? Am I on my feet? Is this my mind? Am I doing what I should be doing the right time? Am I on my feet probing the streets, trying to find a mind that will incline to fall behind? Some lavishly drinking wine and eating fine, but ask yourself, are these my teeth? Are these my feet? Is this my mind not thinking how I'm behaving to satisfy my craving while my brother is hurting? And all that is echoing inside is I, me, my. Selfish am I, who tomorrow may die. Some other, my same brother or a friend getting hurt again. Ask yourself the question, is this I? Am I on my feet? Is this my mind? Am I doing what I should be doing at the right time? And so I see, that life is special, and hope that we, will make it so. Oh, then we will grow as intended, and we will know how it should be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael St. George. We're moving on to hearing from Wilma Morrison, who's kept the history of the Underground Railroad alive here in our region and in Niagara in particular. She's a wonderful and honorable woman that we're so pleased to have here as part of our tribute. So let's have one of our elders speak. Wilma Morrison.
Mayor Bratina and all your guests, I want to thank you for your kind invitation to participate in this commemorative event. It's been a wonderful week, in spite of it celebrating death. Anyway, Mayor Bratina, I'm going to digress 365 degrees. You mentioned Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong used to come here in the middle to late 40s to perform in the various hotels here in Hamilton. And they could play for all the people of the community, but they couldn't stay in the hotels, which was a special bonus for us because they came to live in our homes. The other side of it is you feel the warmth in this room. Things have changed, and hopefully the world will continue to change. I've written a letter to Nelson Mandela. I'm sure he won't read it, but anyway, I've been blessed to be alive at this time and been able to learn so much politics and history of many countries around the world and often dismayed by people's attitudes towards each other. I grew up in Hamilton after moving here, I will tell you. And I began my tutelage under Reverend John Christie Holland. Our church on John Street was the center of our community, and we began to notice changes in the community with the churches meeting on an annual event on New Year's Day to meet and pray together for the coming year, just getting to know each other. That was so important, and barriers began to break down. And the ending was with our pastor, Reverend Holland, being chosen as Citizen of the Year in 1952. Absolutely unheard of before. And then there was the Honorable Lincoln Alexander. He moved into town. More changes took place, almost faster than we could imagine, and involved many members of the communities of our fair city. Link, as he was known even as Lieutenant Governor of our province of Ontario, brought such tremendous sense of pride to our communities. And changes began to take place then in the United States in the process of settling that terrible desegregation problem that we had there. Then was Dr. Martin Luther King. With his strong, though quiet voice of reason, we were able to watch as changes did begin to take place where we had previously thought it could never happen. And for a while there was much hope. Then the worst happened as Dr. King was gunned down, and most of us were unsure as to what would happen, though. There were many prayers for peace. Things slowly began to sort itself out, and we were still observing fewer changes in attitude after all this with the election, or as we're experiencing now with the election of President Obama. I'm sure with you, but during your times in that horrible prison, you must have thought you were forgotten. However, many prayers for your freedom were issued around the world continually. They seemed to fall on deaf ears, and then came that magic day, February 11th, 1990, that we had so long prayed for. It began to seem that many people in the world had begun to come to their senses. Your emergence from that horrible life experience has brought you much strength, and you daily faced up to the many duties facing you with such a positive attitude. It was wonderful to observe. You've won many hearts, but I wondered if through it all we really lost that sense of empowerment. How long will it take before we put our differences aside and judge all people for what they can contribute to the building of the community? No matter what they look like, no matter what their language. This country is one of the most outstanding examples of a country that can be built and successful with many people coming from all over the world. Boy, can we ever get our Canadian history taught in our schools. But that's a whole other thing. I could go on. Mr. Mandela, honorable sir, you have taught us well, and now it is up to us as individuals to strive towards better relationships with one another so that you can rest in peace, as you all will know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. We're going to have our final speaker is Dr. Gary Warner, and then we'll continue with a few renditions, and we'll close. Now, we know we started a little late because of the weather, so we are about 10 minutes over, but actually it's about exact time now that we will close, so you probably need about 15 minutes of your time to indulge us for another 15 minutes to get this program, through this program. I think you've done well, packing with so many things, and I'm glad that you're still here with us.
Council General, members of Parliament, guests, and everyone, hello. We've lost, as everyone has said today, a great man. We've seen in the past week a global outpouring of admiration for Nelson Mandela. We gathered here to pay our respects to this historic figure. I'm personally keenly conscious of the passing of a generation with Mandela's death. Nelson Mandela was born 1 year after my mother and passed away just 5 days before my mother's death. I was a schoolboy in Trinidad at a time when people in many countries in the Caribbean and Africa were excited by the impending end of colonial rule in the late 1950s. As we said in Trinidad, possibly in Jamaica, Massa de done. Seen from this perspective, for people like me in the African diaspora, although we were not affected obviously in the same way as black South Africans, we experience apartheid as a personal affront to our dignity. The brunt of the battle against apartheid was carried on within South Africa and by exiled or imprisoned ANC cadres. People all around the world, including no doubt many in this room, advocated for divestment from South African companies, signed petitions, lobbied politicians, participated in public demonstrations, or made financial contributions in support of the anti-apartheid struggle. We rejoiced when Mandela's release from prison signaled the end of the apartheid era. I remember well that day, February 11, 1990, when Nelson Mandela walked out of prison. CHCH TV brought the camera into our living room in Westdale, where I provided commentary on this historic walk to freedom. I was also privileged later in June at that dinner in Toronto to shake Mandela's hand when he was hosted at this event. And I remember joking that I would avoid washing my hand for as long as possible. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning that everything can be taken from a human being, but the last of those of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. It is certainly a trait we admire in Nelson Mandela, who emerged from 27 years in prison with his vision of human freedom intact and without, as everyone has said, without the bitterness. As Mandela put it in Long Walk to Freedom, it was during those long and lonely years that my hunger for the freedom of my people became a hunger for the freedom of all people. For to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedoms of others. As we honor Mandela's memory and his contribution to averting civil war as South Africa transitioned from apartheid to democratic rule, we have to be mindful about not honoring him in name only. As Gandhi put it, the highest honor that my friends can do me is to enforce in their own lives the program that I stand for. Mandela stood for values of social justice, equity, solidarity, dignity for all people, and all of the values that we've heard articulated today. The complete dismantling of all of the heritage of apartheid is obviously a work in progress. The Freedom Charter was an inspirational blueprint. Impressive legislation has been enacted in South Africa, and much has changed. But it's only been 2 decades. And some challenges obviously remain. So we honor the memory of Mandela best by embodying and advocating for the values that we admire in him. Here in our own backyard, we must ensure that everyone is treated with equity and that all have access to the same opportunities. We have to work for peace, for ahimsa, as Gandhi put it, do no harm to any person, animal, plant, or living thing. My final words of tribute in honor of Mandela are a quote from Martin Luther King that I think reflects his vision of justice, compassion, and dignity for all. As King wrote, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied to a single garment of destiny. What affects one directly affects all indirectly. As long as there is poverty in this world, no one can be totally rich, even if he or she has $1 billion. As long as diseases are rampant and millions of people cannot expect to live more than 20 or 30 years, no one can be totally healthy, even if he or she got a clean bill of health from the finest clinic. We've lost Mahatma Gandhi, we've lost, but he lives on. We've lost Martin Luther King, but he lives on. We have lost Madiba Mandela, and we know that he lives on. May his dream live on, and may his soul rest in peace.
Thank you so very much, Dr. Gary Warner. Quite fitting tribute, and as we close off our program, we're going to go into some. We're going to have Stewart Church. Just okay.
This piece is Steel Ore.
poetry.
When all is said and done, we all have a hope, and that hope is found in Jesus Christ. For those of us who still live on, may that hope continue to burn within our mind that one day, soon, Jesus will come again, and those loved ones who have passed away or who are sleeping, we know we will see them again. My song for you this evening is The Timeless Theme.
Never crying again.
Hello, good afternoon. We are members of the Hamilton Youth Steel Orchestra, and I just want to say that we are honored to be here and part of this event. Today we're going to be playing a short version of a song called Someone Like You by Abiel, and this song to us represents losing someone very special, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Nelson Mandela.
Actually, I'm proud to be belonging to two places where Nelson Mandela appreciated in his life and his march for freedom. One of them is Canada, and this role is well known, and I want to repeat it. The other is Sudan, and Nelson Mandela was saying that the first place that gave him a passport was the Sudan. So he was given the passport, passport that enabled him to, and his friends in the national movement, South African national movement, to roam the world for the march of freedom and emancipation to South Africa. This song, it's not a song, I don't know the genre actually. It's neither a rhyme, a poem, nor a spoken word, but it's just a mix of them. I'll read part of it and sing the other part. Welcome, Mandela. We are your people, people of freedom, people of justice, people of peace. We're not here to say farewell. We're not here to cry and mourn. We're not here to play the notes of forlorn. We're here to cheer your life. We are here to cheer the dawn. Mandela, you're not the hero. You're more than that. You are the elegance of humanity. You are the big heart. Hey, Mandela, we are together with you to shake pulse with reconciliation, to shake hands with emancipation, and to shake hearts with revolution, and share smiles of inclusion, to share it all. We're here to share it all. The glare of fairness, the light of justice, spirit of forgiveness, the color of trust, and sense of togetherness and peace. Trust me, Mandela, we are with you, filling the eternity with all the meanings of heartful feelings, love, and fraternity. Dear Mandela, you've done the best. Your day was long, full of glory, full of achievement. You're not tired, but you know what? It's time to rest. So sleep in smiles, sleep in dignity, sleep in happiness, sleep in chastity, sleep in peace, sleep, Mandela, sweet dreams. You inspired the life, unity. See you tomorrow. In everyone, in every face. Hey, welcome, Mandela. You are awake, strong and lively. So return to work. Welcome, Mandela. We are your people. Still with you. Will be with you and forever. So
people of freedom, people of justice, people of peace.
We are here to cheer you right. We are here to cheer the Lord. We shake hearts with revelation. We shake hearts with reconciliation. We shake hearts with reconciliation. We shake hearts with emancipation. We shake hearts with emancipation. We shake hearts with revolution. 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 Mandela, Mandela, we are your people. Mandela, we are your people. We are your people. Still we are, still we are, still we are, and forever. Now we're not writing up, but something.
And we're going to do All Canada, and we're going to have Michael, Rajak, and friends close off after All Canada. He'll be taking us out right through the music chambers, but he's going to be the finale for today's tribute to Nelson Mandela. And I know that the tribute is just a symbolically saying thank you, but the work really begins every day, tomorrow, as we live some of the principles, give life, give true meaning to what this man represents and what he advised us to do. We know how to do it. Let there be will, let there be action after this. So thank you so much. We have to give voice to action. So, and then we'll have Michael Rivich coming right after this, and then we'll perform, yes, we'll come right in, and we'll go back out there. The City of Hamilton has promised to provide refreshments, so I trust that it's out there ready for us to partake of. So thank you so much. I hope the program, you enjoyed it. As I have. Thank you. the many people who contributed to this program, the many people who said, yes, we want to make a difference in this community and we want to organize this. Thank you so much for showing us. Thank you to the Building Trades Council, who has brought us this wonderful portrait of at Mandela. We'll then donate it to Stewart Memorial Church. That will be a part of their collection. So thank you so much, Patrick, for that. And I'm just very, very touched despite the weather and the diversity of this day. That's what Mandela wanted, for us to come together as humans who inhabit this planet, this earth, to build a better one in the future. So as Michael, Ray, Jack, and friends take us out with some African rhythms, let's partake of the food out there. I understand, I hope there is food. And secondly, let us meet each other again, shake hands, and get ready for the 18th annual Shameless Plug, the annual Hamilton Black History Awards, the John Holland Awards in February, where we will announce a scholarship in memory of Nelson Mandela for young people, for the young person who is fighting for social justice and human rights. And we'll be giving them a $1,000 scholarship, a new award to be announced for the John C. Holland Awards in memory of Nelson Mandela.
Thank you, everyone. You did a great job.